Richard Layard of the London School of Economics believes our expectation that a higher standard of living will yield more happiness is misguided. Overall, he says, higher incomes do not lead to greater happiness. The main reason they do not, according to Layard, is that we continually find ourselves on what he calls a happiness treadmill. Once we get used to air conditioning, for example, having air conditioning no longer makes us happy. Once we get used to surfing the internet on our iPads, surfing the internet on our iPads no longer makes us happy. Furthermore, says Layard, being aware of other people with higher incomes makes us unhappy. In fact, studies show that lowering other people's incomes would make us just as happy as raising our own. Maybe the problem is that we're looking for happiness in all the wrong places, which is where Blake's poem comes to the rescue. I don't know how many times I've read these few lines, but the number is very large. They are lovely lines, easy to quote, and even easier to dismiss. World in sand, heaven in flower, infinity in hand, eternity in hour, yada yada, yada yada. It all sounds quite divine. A perfect preface to a perfect Thanksgiving. Here's the problem. I never paid any attention to the next few lines of the poem. They tell the rest of the story, and it's not pretty. Like the backstory of the first Thanksgiving. Here are the next lines. A robin redbreast in a cage puts all heaven in a rage. A dog starved at its master's gate predicts the ruin of the state. The beggar's rags, fluttering in air, does to rags the heavens tear. One mite wrung from the laborer's hands shall buy and sell the miser's lands, or, if protected from on high, does that whole nation sell and buy. But wait, I hear you asking. What do caged birds and starving dogs have to do with happiness? Or the extortion of laborers and the corruption of government have to do with infinity as the founding creed of the West? Good question. I'm glad you asked it. Blake titled his poem Auguries of Innocence. An augury is a foretelling. The word innocent was originally not a moral term, but a medical one. It means uninjured or unharmed. The poem foretells how we can remain unharmed by human wickedness. On these terms, innocence is a state of blessedness, even happiness. We could justifiably retitle the poem Heralds of Happiness. What you need to be happy in life, Blake says, is not infinite wealth or infinite possessions. Rather, you need to be infinitely attentive to what is before you, to what you hold in your hand. If you want to be happy, begin by paying attention. When you do, you'll see that the one thing in front of you is the result of an infinitely long chain of cause and consequence that extends out to infinity and back to eternity. Sometimes the one thing we see makes us grateful for everything that made it possible. At other times, however, that one thing will fill us with shame or anger or sadness. Almost always, our experience will be a blend of joy and woe. Later in the poem, Blake writes those lines that we occasionally sing as a hymn. Joy and woe are woven fine, clothing for the soul divine. Under every grief and pine runs a joy with silken twine. Blake wrote Auguries of Innocence in 1860, but the poem could have been written today. These may in some ways be the best of times, but in others they seem the worst. Anywhere you look, you see desire that has devolved into greed, cooperation that has metastasized into corruption, and freedom that has putrefied into narcissism. If you pay attention to one thing, you should find yourself paying attention to everything, which inevitably means confronting the painful truth about the wickedness of humanity and the indifference of nature. Whether you're looking at a flower or a beggar, Blake says, you are looking at a chain of causes and consequences that ultimately includes everyone and everything. One joy from many sources, one woe from many causes. Also this, one Galen Guengerich. From many people and many labors and many sources. I am wholly dependent on the people and the world around me for everything I need. The first principle of existence is utter dependence. The discipline of gratitude urges me to acknowledge my dependence. The ethic of gratitude, in turn, ensures that my well-being does not cause the people and world around me to suffer unduly. The turkey I eat on Thanksgiving should be one that was raised humanely. My clothing and my tennis shoes should not be made by 8-year-old children. The delivery man who brings takeout Chinese to my door the day after Christmas should know by the generosity of my tip that I care about his well-being, and so on, ad infinitum, to infinity. There should be no limit to the depth of my gratitude or the extent of my concern. As I look across our nation and around the world this Thanksgiving season, I'm keenly aware of my good fortune. The food I have to eat is more than ample, and my home is more than adequate shelter. My daughter is healthy and happy. I have a wonderful wife whom I love fiercely and who loves me back. 11 years on Friday. I love you, sweetheart. I've been blessed to serve this wonderful congregation for 18 years. I have extraordinary colleagues here and trusted friends. Life together is good. We have everywhere to go. Thanksgiving is the time when we pause to remind ourselves that we have been given everything. For what is good, we express our gratitude. What is not, we vow to change. As Blake says, we were made for joy and woe, and when this we rightly know, safely through the world we go. Stay safe. Happy Thanksgiving. I love you. May God bless us all.